Okay, we found an avocado tree root cut on both sides of the entrance, and I'll show you this in just a few minutes. The entrance of the tunnel, as I said, it was 9 feet across the top, and on one side was a live avocado root, on the other side was a dead avocado root. They had to cut that out. We have this, by the way. We found a plastic Disney bag, copyright 1982, about 4.5 feet below the classroom floor, and 3 to 6 inches in from the entrance and under the foundation. Now, the reason that plastic Disney bag is so important is because we think that they filled the tunnel in 1982 when the complaint was initially brought to the attention of the authorities. I said 83 earlier, it's 82 when the complaint was made. And when they filled it in, the plastic Disney bag somehow or other flew in there as they were filling it in and nobody noticed it. Now, who says there is no God, right? What documentation, fantastic documentation, that tunnel, the entrance to that tunnel, this is right at the entrance, was filled in 1982 or sometime subsequent to 1982. Mr. Ken Lanning, the outstanding, know-it-all FBI expert, behavioral science, says that I took that garbage bag in 1993 out of a trash can and placed it there, that I planted evidence. Of course, Mr. Lanning says there's no organized satanic movement in this country today. There's only a few dabblers here and there.
I don't know how much of this one I'm going to be able to do for the public portion, but we're going to try to do as much of it as we can. Tonight we're going to be talking about satanic ritual abuse, trauma-based mind control, and organ harvesting. It's a pretty gruesome, collection of topics here. But whenever we look at, the incredibly dark side of the occult, the incredibly dark side of black magic, witchcraft, and Satanism, in particular with secret societies, we find that for quite a while now, this just isn't kings and queens that have been drinking blood and shit like that thousands of years ago. This has happened, within modern times as well. Everything from sex trafficking, the Finders movement, which we're going to talk about a little bit tonight, to the CIA actually being involved in a lot of this, our very own government being involved in a lot of this. And you guys seen Ted Gunderson in the intro talking about these underground tunnels where children were being trafficked. And it's like, you hear the QAnon shit. And what I really hate about Pizzagate and what I hate about the Q movement and all of that is it really undermined, in my opinion, the seriousness of all of the child trafficking in the underground tunnels. It made it seem as if it's, it's not credible, right? They talk about underground tunnels and how fucking aliens and ETs are under there and they're going down there and saving children and Donald Trump saving kids. It's, and they do that to, really try to make it as fantastical as possible. That way it actually discredits, what truly took place, in the 1980s and things of that nature, where there were literal governmental groups and cults that were actually caught doing these things. We know human trafficking, this is not just a United States of America problem. This is a problem all across the world. I do want to say thank you to everybody for joining me in the chat. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up, hit the like button for me. That helps more people, the algorithm and all that good stuff, so more people can come in here and check it out. And let me know, too, if you guys can hear me and you can see me okay, if you're in the chat, just so I'm not, talking and you guys can't hear me or anything like that. So we're going to listen to some testimonies from satanic ritual abuse victims, people that have actually experienced this. I'm going to open up a little bit later, for you guys too. If any of you have ever experienced or had involvement with satanic cults or been victims of satanic ritual abuse, I will give you the opportunity. You can join me on Twitter Spaces. I did put the link. Let me go ahead and get this started. I did put the link in the chat here for you guys for the Twitter Spaces. And I also started a Discord, which the Discord is going to start on the private part of the show, but you guys will be able to tune in and listen in. So the private part is the uncensored part. That's where we get into like the really gruesome videos and shit like that. And I promise you, some of it is going to be very hardcore. So if you're like really sensitive, you know, the private part may not be for you. You know, some people are okay with watching, you know, extremely graphic, you know, subject matter, but other people not so much, you know. And I understand if it's not for you, but here's the thing, you know, we fear what we don't understand, you know. We fear what we don't understand, and in order for the light to claim what is in the darkness, we have to bring it to the light, you know. That's why we expose these things, is in order for us to like claim this, you know, in the name of truth. That way it's no longer happening behind closed doors or happening in the shadows, you know, and we educate ourselves about these type of things. That way, you know, when people tell you that this is just a fucking crazy conspiracy or that none of this ever happened, you can say, actually, no, bro, you know, this really did happen. This is something very serious. This is something very legit, and it's documented. And it's been documented for a very long time. And like I said, some of you guys may have even experienced this yourself. Let me go ahead and start the... Looks like, okay. I don't want the video on this one. So let me turn my camera off. Sorry, guys. Okay, I don't know how to fucking turn my camera off on this one on Twitter, so that's awesome. Awesome, but here we go. So you guys can join me on Twitter. It's Twitter at the real best damn. Sorry guys, trying to get my other device here set up. Twitter at the real best damn. If you guys want to join me over on Twitter, and like I said, if you have any you know, satanic ritual abuse experiences and you would like to share you know, anything that's happened to you, I am more than willing to listen to you guys and, you know, hear what you have to say as well. You know, this is really serious shit, you know, just to be all the way honest with you. Anytime that people have these traumatic experiences, you know, they affect us, not just for a short period of time, but for the rest of our fucking lives, for a lot of us, you know. I can say that as a result of, you know, some of the people that I've had dealings with, that I myself have run into a lot of people that have, you know, belonged to some of these cults, you know, and that was... part of the reason I really feel like I could never be in one of these clubs, one of these, you know, these secret societies and shit like that. And it's not to say you know, I'm not all about brotherhood and things like that. It's I can't stand back and watch children be harmed. You know, I can't harm a child myself. I know that there is a spiritual connotation to these things and why they believe that they're doing this. We know that a lot of these children are groomed. They're groomed for themselves to become a part of the club or a part of the cult, you know, at a later date, to be used for sex, to be offered up as sacrifices. You know, and this goes back to, you know, Baal and the Canaanite god and, you know, Moloch and all of that, you know, where they were offering up their children, you know, way back when. And we know that the Holy Bible was like warning us against this shit, you know, thousands of years ago. So this isn't something new. There's nothing new under the sun, you know. And there is You know, and I wonder too when we think about the Anunnaki and the gods, and they had this drink. It was called ambrosia. Thank you very much. Sound good and videos are good. Thank you. They had this drink called ambrosia, and this ambrosia drink was supposed to give the gods, the Anunnaki, eternal life. And so it allowed them to stay young and to be immortal, right? And I'm not gonna, okay, I'll show you one or two things real quick. Like, some of the celebrities that we see and how they just don't fucking age, I wonder sometimes if that ambrosia drink that the Anunnaki themselves were drinking wasn't in fact adrenochrome. We know that there is a big connection with the adrenochrome and the satanic torture, the ritualistic torture, of children, because when they have that fear, they're giving off hormones and pheromones, and that actually makes it more rich, right? And from a spiritual point of view, when blood is how demonic entities, it's basically like it lights up the pathway for them to enter into this reality. So say you're trying to invoke or evoke some type of demonic entity, and you're trying to manifest it into the physical reality. You want to highly charge the energy. Same thing like with the sex magic, right? And this is why sex trafficking and shit can also be really big. But with sex magic, one of the things that is really powerful about sex, it's the act of creation, right? So life and death are the two most powerful acts that we really have here on planet Earth. And when we look at sex magic, when two people come together, and they commingle their spirits, the act of sex actually charges the air with that energy of creation. So when they have sex, that's when they speak the invocation, right? Because the air is charged, it's more powerful, it carries more energetic weight for whatever they're trying to manifest or whatever they're trying to bring, Same thing with, the torture, right? The torture, they're giving off extreme amounts of energy as well when someone is in fear, right? And if you're trying to bring in a distorted, dark entity, it's that fear that's being fed off of. That's why a lot of times you hear about, them teasing, the people that are being tortured, like, where's your Jesus? Call for your Jesus, and, shit like that. Because it's like they're trying to make the experience that much more worse with, humiliation, pain, fear, all of that, because they are trying to invoke that polarity, because that's the type of entity they're trying to engage with. And like I said, that blood becomes the offering, and it opens up a spiritual doorway or a spiritual gateway, and it kind of lights a pathway for that demonic entity to come into this realm and to possess those. And like, say, when they sacrifice somebody, that demon comes to the sacrifice to devour the sacrifice. Well, then once that person is dead, the person that actually sacrificed them then takes that energy and that demon themselves, right? So it's kind of like this transference of energies, and that's really the point for all of it. So just trying to give you a little bit of a breakdown on why they do what they do. So let's go ahead and jump into this. It's like I said, it's gonna be pretty fucking graphic. So we're gonna start off first with a couple of testimonies from the satanic ritual abuse. And we are going to be talking about the tunnels as well as the finders here. So if you guys aren't familiar with the finders movement, and I do have the actual documents, we're going to get into that. I feel like that would be a good place to start here. This is one of the more popular, publicized, satanic cult movements. So the finders movement, 1987. The finders came to wider public attention when two members of the movement were arrested in Tallahassee, Florida in 19 87. And let me just remind you guys, if you want to join me in the private part of tonight's show, this is going to be for all the patrons. So everybody who is a paid member on Patreon, patreon.com, Best Damn Podcast Official, and for all the people who donate in the month of March. So you can go to PayPal, Cash App, or Facebook Messenger. All the links are in the description, and I also put them in the chat. And once you donate on one of those other platforms, you text 513-393-2396, and I will send you the link for the private link to the private part of the show. And we will be on Discord for that part of the show as well. I will be on Discord. You guys can be on Discord as well. And if you have donated in March, or you are a patron, you'll have an upgraded role. That way you can actually speak and, raise your hand and get involved in the action. So it's actually pretty cool. And I'll give you guys like 10 minutes or something when we switch segments for you guys to send that text out and get your roles taken care of. Now, the finders came to wider public attention when 2 members of the movement were arrested in Tallahassee, Florida in 1987, charged with misdemeanor child abuse of the 6 children accompanying them. The 2 men have remained silent when in a public park the police inquired as to their identity and relationship to the children. The men were Douglas Ammerman and James Michael Holwell, both described as well-dressed men in suits. They used a van to transport 6 scruffy, hungry children of varying ages between 2 and 11. And a lot of times, too, 11 is a little older than what you see a lot of, children that are involved in this. Usually around 8 years old, 7, 8 years old, 9 at the latest, is when they stop, because that has to do with the adrenochrome. It's like, their spiritual perception is not as wide open. They start to get groomed into the world, and their perception changes, and they shift into more of like a boy or a girl, as opposed to like a child or a baby mentality. Their energy changes. Their energy is different. The 2 oldest children, referred to as Mary and Max, were interviewed by law enforcement, as the others were too young to properly communicate. It was noted that medical examinations of the children showed signs of sexual abuse and malnutrition, as well as bite marks potentially belonging to an adult human. During the interview, as well as eyewitness testimony from neighbors, it was discovered that the children were raised on a farm belonging to Petty with little adult supervision, with there being 20 adults and 1 other child present. The younger children were observed to display behavior indicating that they were not used to being in a house or using indoor plumbing, requesting to go outside to use the bathroom, or urinating in their pants. Noted to lack underwear. That is so sad. Max had a poor concept of time. They explained that they were being weaned from their mothers and were rarely allowed inside the house, even sleeping outside. And that's what I mean. Like, some of this stuff, I don't know if you, I don't want to keep talking over it, but I'm just, some of this stuff, it's hard for me to even, read some of this stuff. And when we get into some of the videos, it's hard to go through some of this. So I'm giving you a heads up, man. I'm just going in and telling you, not everybody's going to be okay with it. So, where was that? Okay, neighbors observed that the children apparently lived in the farm's watermelon field. Many described Ammerman and Holwell as their teachers, teaching them to read and play games. One game involved disrobing a man, wearing his clothes, and going through his pockets for money. She later revised her statement and asserted that only jackets were involved. The 2 reported seeing female members of the cult naked and believe this to be another game as well. When questioned about bad touches, Mary denied sexual abuse, but became very fidgety and wanted to end the interview. At another finder's farm in Virginia, agents recorded cages on the premises with witnesses asserting they were used to keep children. As of 2022, the full medical and psychological reports are not available for public viewing, which I do have some of the reports. According to U.S. District Court records in Washington, a confidential police source had previously told authorities that the finders were a cult that conducted brainwashing techniques at a warehouse and a Glover Park duplex raided by law enforcement. And remember, too, and this is why the ritual abuse and trauma-based mind control, they go hand in hand, right? Because when you are traumatized like that, part of how we're made, really, we forget really bad shit, so we don't have to deal with that emotion. We don't have to deal with it every day of our lives and every moment of our existence like it just happened. So memory kind of fades. But when we have a really traumatic experience, something like really violent or something really, really traumatizing, what happens is our brain fires, like we have electrical synapses firing back and forth in our brains, right? That like send the signals, and our brain interprets those electrical signals. But whenever we have a really traumatizing experience, that fragments, right? So those pathways go from one pathway and they split off into two pathways, right? So a lot of the reason you see the masses, right, and the people, and why everybody's got the fucking memory of a goldfish now, and they have TikTok brain, is because they've all been conditioned, right? The population has through, sex, gore, violence, all the shit that you see online, in the movies, television, right? All of the very base and just debaucherous bullshit that we're constantly being fed. That's why. So, even though we're being desensitized to these things, the reason we're being desensitized is because like our brain is going into like this self-defense fucking state to where it's like, not reacting to something because it's reacted to something so much, right? It's fragmented. Right, so every time those pathways split from 1 to 2, a fragment is created or an alter is created, right? So, and these are alters where, and alters basically are places where we have emotional attachments, right? So it's a place where part of our conscious energy is stuck, right? In that memory, and we're consciously feeding, or unconsciously feeding energy to that memory. Like, okay, say you have somebody that, done some really bad things to you, right? So much so you could never forgive them, and you think about it all the time, even though it happened 20, 30 fucking years ago, right? Well, the reason being is because when they traumatize you, one of those fragments created, or multiple fragments created, and in those places where the fragmentation happened, where you have that traumatizing memory, right? Every time it comes back to you, every time you reminisce about it and you think about it, that's an astral connection. You actually have an astral cord, right? A silver cord that's connected or tethered to that memory, and you're feeding energy to it every time you're reliving it, every time you're recycling it. And that's why if something like, people with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, they get reminded of something, they hear something, see something, taste something, smell something that just reminds them of the traumatic event, they go right back to where they were because they are astrally connected to that. Right, they're psychically connected to that, and they're feeding energy to it over and over because there's a fragment, there's an altar where energy is being created, and they're building up a demon or an attachment to that particular incident. Same thing, like, with demonic entities. That's why they do the things they do with the scaring people and shit like that. They're trying to create places where they can dig in consciously, because negativity It has to have, like, whenever you're dealing with hexes and curses and things like that, they can't latch onto you or attach to you unless there is a distortion or a negative polarity to hold on to, right? So whenever you hear things like, when you're not in fear and you're in an elevated state of consciousness, in the state of Christ, like a lot of people like to call it, that anointing, that spiritual anointing, that high vibration, high frequency, nothing can reach that, right? You're above those lower vibrations, those lower frequencies, those lower distortions. So entities that feed on energy, that feed on pain, that feed on fear, they need to bring you down, right? They need to create a sort of wound, right? That way they can create that altar. That way they have somewhere to hook into you consciously and attach to you consciously. And like a lot of people, the reason they get demonic attachments and demonically oppressed and shit like that is because they give it attention, right? Every time you give those negativity, those things that are negative attention, you're feeding it. You're giving it conscious energy. Where intention goes, energy flows, right? So the same thing if we're like manifesting something beautiful for our life, we're trying to think about how we want to manifest, a wife and kids and blah, 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 our dream career, right? So we're constantly writing it down, speaking positive affirmations, thinking about what it would be like and, putting in actual physical work and action to make good things happen. What's the same thing with negative shit? Why do you think, like self-fulfilling prophecies, where people are constantly saying, I can never meet somebody good, right? In my love life, all I meet is liars and cheaters, and that's all they fucking meet. Why? Because they're feeding that energy. They're aligning with that frequency. They're aligning with that vibration. Or, people with like insane phobias or fears. You ever notice they usually attract exactly what they're fucking terrified of? Right to them. They're like, they have this irrational fear about being, kidnapped or something, or trafficked, and it's like they have this entire fear to where, like, that's what they're saying. Whenever you have a fear and you're like polarizing yourself away from something, you're, because of the laws of attraction and polarity, right? The more that you try to resist, right? And the more you push against something, the opposite effect actually happens. So it's like, the more that we create a resistance, the more energy we're building up on the opposing end of the spectrum. So it's like almost it does better to not even think about something you're scared of, to not give it energy, to not focus on it, and to not try and resist it, and to just kind of focus on the things that, make you happy. Focus on the things that you can control, not taking all these fucking precautions to stop a potential of something you're terrified of, because all you're actually doing is reinforcing that reality and reinforcing the idea that you have a fear of, and you're putting yourself energetically in alignment with that and making yourself energetically compatible with that, and you're attracting that into your life. The more you try to resist it, you're telling the universe that the reason you're so afraid is because you need that experience to overcome, right? So the universe doesn't give a fuck about why you're thinking something or why you're feeling something. It just knows that you're feeling it. So it's like, whatever you're manifesting, it's going to give it to you. So I'm just trying to explain to you kind of how this shit works. Now, where was I at? According to U.S. District Courts in Washington, confidential police source previously told authorities the finders were a cult that conducted brainwashing techniques at a warehouse and a Glover Park duplex raided by law enforcement. The source told of being recruited by the finders with promises of financial reward and sexual gratification, and of being invited by one member to explore Satanism with them. According to the documents, police sources said some of the items seized showed pictures of children engaged in what appeared to be cult rituals. Officials in the U.S. Customs Service said that the materials seized included photos showing children involved in bloodletting ceremonies of animals and one photograph of a child in chains. It was noted by a detective during the investigation that documents were discovered with detailed instructions about methods to obtain children for unspecified purposes, including the impregnation of female members of the community, purchasing, trading, and kidnapping, but neither the documents nor anyone else with knowledge of them could later be found. Robert Gardner Terrell, who owned one of the raided properties, claimed, "We are rational people, not devil worshippers or child molesters, and anything we've done is based on the desire for the children to have the richest life they could have." According to Terrell, the recovered photos of naked children were of Holwell's own children, and the dead goats shown in the photos mentioned by the Customs Service were already butchered, with the children being taught how to prepare them. The men were released 6 weeks later, with the state of Florida dropping all charges against them, and the finders' leader, Robert Terrell, publicly gathered with members at the Vietnam Memorial Park in Tallahassee to speak with members of the press and give the public an opportunity to meet the group personally in order to dispel the bad image bestowed on the group by law enforcement and the media. Federal authorities concluded that there was no evidence of criminal activity, with it being noted that although more could have been done for the children, it was difficult to compile accurate information with what knowledge they did have of their lifestyle, and only being able to be judged subjectively. The authorities contacted the mothers of the children, who came to Tallahassee and retrieved them. The allegations, despite the resolution, the issue was brought to wider attention in 1993. When Henry T. Skip Clements, an officer of private sector consulting and resident of Stuart, Florida, obtained a copy of the 1987 report, which stated the D.C. Police Department investigation and the finders had been dropped as a CIA internal matter. Clement alleged that the CIA had compelled the U.S. Customs Service to cease the investigation, supposedly because the commune was used as a front to train agents. Clement's allegations drew the interest of two United States Congress members, Tom Lewis and Charlie Rose, leading to an investigation by the Department of Justice into the finders and the 1987 investigation. CIA spokesperson David Christian asserted that the charges were misunderstandings stemming from a company by the name of Future Enterprises, Inc., being used to train agents, with one member of the finders working as a part-time accountant there. In 2019, the FBI released hundreds of documents related to the finders, noting on the FBI Vault website that it was their most requested topic. Despite a lack of evidence or verification by the DC police, the belief that these reports indicated a larger conspiracy became popular in some quarters. The finders are often described as an early example of satanic panic in the U.S. Some authors have gone as far as describing the finders' conspiratorial beliefs as patient zero to other conspiratorial beliefs regarding the U.S. intelligence services, allegedly covering up or taking part in sexual abuse. Similar allegations of a grand-scale governmental cover-up can be found in other claims, such as those surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. Now imagine that. Right? Imagine that it kind of comes out that the fucking CIA was actually training agents, right? And that this was, a CIA front. I don't know if you guys remember this. I think it was in Pennsylvania. It's been some years ago, but, Pennsylvania came out, their children's services, was involved in child trafficking and abducting children, So this is not the first fucking time that we've ever heard of something like this, where the government is actually, involved in really harmful or malicious acts, or at least being accused of really harmful or malicious acts, especially when it comes to Satanism. Matter of fact, I'll play this really old clip from a show about, Satanism stuff here in a minute for you guys, and kind of show you, that this does go into the government. We're gonna play devil worship, and this is a few minutes. I'm not gonna play the whole thing. This is from like the 80s. This is Geraldo Rivera. He did a special on this shit, and this is what I mean. This is just way fucking different now than things ever were. If you guys think about this shit, like, could you imagine today, like in today's age, the newspapers even talking about satanic ritual abuse. Can you imagine in today's age the media accusing the CIA and FBI and shit like that of being in satanic cults? I can't. I cannot even imagine them doing that because we live in such a different time. Let alone, it being on, daytime television specials and shit, like Geraldo Rivera and shit. And, this was a way different time, than what we experience now. Yeah, children's services was a racket in the 60s and 70s. Yes, that's what I mean. So it's fucking, the children's services... the CIA, the government's been involved in a lot of this. And bear with me, guys. I know this is, I'm just getting warmed up. I've got so much to share with you guys on this one. All right, let me make sure you guys have sound. You guys will not hear this probably. Well, let me, I'll just mute my microphone. That way you guys can hear this over on, Twitter. Let me put the, change my output here. Okay, here we go. All right.
Or the demented son of Sam killer David Berkowitz. These and others purportedly linked to the devil worship underground.
Who is Satan? Satan. People are experimenting with now.
Impossible to measure, easy to doubt. The very mention of it invites ridicule.
Come out.
No, I won't let her go. No.
Often the choice is to avoid confronting it, ignore it, find other explanations, or laugh it off. That is not the choice we have made tonight. We have chosen to ask why. Via satellite, we'll be asking the youngest person on Oklahoma's death row, just 17 when he killed in the name of Satan, why he murdered his own parents. And to Southern California, where we will ask the parents of children in the notorious McMartin preschool why they claim their kids were satanically abused. And to London, where rock star Ozzy Osbourne will tell us why he feels he and heavy metal music are getting a bum rap. And to the state penitentiary in Angola, Louisiana, to ask convicted killer Charles Gervais why he thought the devil would award him 10,000 souls.
The Investigative News Group presents the Geraldo Rivera Special. Devil Worship. Exposing Satan's Underground.
Once again, a warning about some tough language and descriptions in a report that we'll have for you in just a moment. Let me introduce you first, though, to Zena LeVay. Her father, Anton LeVay, is, I guess, the founding father of Satanism in this country. Founding it, about 25 years ago, Zena?
Yeah, approximately 25 years.
Can you tell us with any certainty how widespread the religion of Satanism is in this country or around the world?
Well, the religion is worldwide. We have members just throughout the world, and it's a legitimate religion. It's, perfectly within the... It's legal.
But how many people? Hundreds, thousands, tens of
thousands.
thousands, hundreds of thousands?
Hundreds of thousands, I can't say. Thousands, easily.
What is it, Dr. Aquino? Dr. Aquino, the high priest of the Church of Set?
Temple of Set.
Temple of Set, also a colonel, interestingly enough, in the United States Army. What is it, this Satanism?
I think that there is some confusion tonight because this same term means something different to Satanists than it does to Christians. in the United States. By our own standards, the people who you've shown in these film clips would not be Satanists, either present or in the past. Rather, they would be the failures of a conventional religion.
I appreciate your opinion. What is it, sir, then? What is Satanism?
Well, originally the Church of Satan, when it was founded, was composed not of people with a hatred for Christianity, but of people who, by and large, were agnostics and atheists, because they felt that the institutions which had arisen around Christianity had failed in their moral commitment. So Satanism itself became an emphasis on rational self-interest and on taking responsibility for your own intellectual and ethical decisions.
Rational self-interest, you call it?
Yes.
Okay, one thing we do know that Satanism has in common with other religions is the belief that the devil can inhabit your body. Remember the movie Exorcist, the film? It dealt with ridding the body of Satan in a ritual called exorcism. As we discovered in the heart of the Haitian section of Brooklyn, New York, exorcism is more than just a scene in a movie. It's a common aspect of some people's religious beliefs. Operating out of the back room of this religious curio shop, a voodoo priest regularly performs exorcisms. This one on a woman whose persistent stomach pains were thought to be caused by the devil inside her.
I know you've been possessed by the devil for so many years. He been bother you. Just today you come to me, and I'm going to let him know he cannot bother you again.
With the help of several assistants, and accompanied by throbbing traditional music, the priest's incantations built to a crescendo. Then, in a moment of almost sexual release, the devil was purged from the patient.
That you can inject, that you can take all the malady, all the sickness away from you. Yeah.
In every way, Southern California is a very long way from the heart of Brooklyn. But at the church of a preacher named Roy Masters, exorcisms of the devil appear just as sincere, far out, and dramatic. With a background in show business rather than theology, Masters claims the members of his congregation react so profoundly to the laying on of the cross because they feel and fear themselves possessed by the devil.
Come out. No, I won't let her go. No.
Devil worship is as old as religion itself. It's the grim alternative, the flip side of life. Evil over good, dark over light, Satan over God himself.
Come forth and bestow these blessings of hell upon us.
Forced underground by the religious hysteria of the Middle Ages, Satanism was resurrected, first by an Englishman named Aleister Crowley in the early 20th century. It entered its modern era in this country just about 25 years ago, under the theatrical guidance of Anton LaVey, California-based high priest of present-day devil worship. LaVey founded the Church of Satan. Now, despite its preachings of evil and hate, the church and its offshoots are constitutionally protected religions.
I believe that hate is necessary in a controlled way just as much as love is necessary.
LaVey penned the best-selling Satanic Bible. It's the handbook of devil worshippers everywhere. And for a time, he was considered chic enough to attract the attention of Hollywood. After working together on a film, LaVey made Sammy Davis Jr. an honorary member, while the late Jane Mansfield was for a time among LaVey's most passionate followers.
Most of the people that are in my group are professional people, they're business people, they're people that are from very responsible walks of life.
Contemporary Satanism relies heavily on bizarre and sometimes bloody ceremonies.
One of the ugliest, yet apparently most common rituals in devil worship is the sacrifice of animals, often involving the removal of organs and the draining of their blood in elaborate ceremonies. Well, a series of cattle mutilations on this Louisiana farm has sent a shiver of fear through this entire community.
Show me the evidence that this was some kind of ritual.
Oh, this hole right here and the tail, they cut the tail off. The same thing with the ears.
They cut the ears off.
Right.
So you two have no doubt but that your animals were used in some kind of ritual.
Right.
Yes. All the blood was gone out of them, too. Every one of them, the blood was drained.
No blood, no insides, eyes pulled out, everything. I'm begging for something to be done. I'm scared.
In response to the animal mutilations and other mysterious and unsolved crimes.
Yeah, so a lot of times too, like when you see shit like that where the eyes are taken out or specific organs, it probably correlates to whatever ritual is being practiced, so say they're doing something to try to have extra sight of some sort, right, to where they want to be able to watch somebody or have a wider perception of their own or look into things spiritually, right, than the eyes of an animal, right, or a heart, or so on and so forth. That's a lot of times why you see this, as well as with the blood being drained. Like I said, blood is what allows demonic entities to manifest into the physical reality. Even so, they sacrifice a lot of dogs too, especially German Shepherds. I'm not sure why in particular it'd be German Shepherds, other than they're police dogs. You know what I mean? So I don't actually know why it would be that particular kind of dog. But yeah, dogs. Think about dog, D-O-G, is God in reverse, G-O-D, right? And dogs also, in their connection to wolves howl at the moon and the Sephiroth, right? And it, in Solomonic magic, everything kind of goes through, the moon sphere. So dogs, I do see why it would be really prominent. And then when you think about Egyptian lore as well, the god Anubis, right, with the dog head, the lord of the underworld, the one who weighs our sins against a heart and a feather. So yeah, all right, we're gonna move on to a little bit more of this, but I mean, now, I just thought that was so fucking interesting, because you would never see this kind of shit now. I mean, like, you would never see this on television nowadays. Like, matter of fact, I'm a little bit sketched out about even putting this on YouTube, because we don't, it's like they hand us strikes, over everything. Even so, how is it attractive? I don't know what you're saying. I didn't catch that. If you guys do have questions in the chat, if you put it in all caps, that way I can actually know that it's for me. I will read your questions here. So, well, and you know what, you're right too. And you've seen the Michael Aquino. He's like a general in the United States Army once again, right? CIA and police and generals and shit like that. They always have this correlation. And then Anton LaVey and his connection with Hollywood, and we've seen this be a recurring theme. It's like those who essentially have the most influence in the world, are always somehow, part of these groups, these brotherhoods, these fraternal orders, these clubs. And a lot of times we see, and what's really wild about it is, the voodoo practices that we've seen too, on the clip. You guys on Twitter didn't see it, but you heard it. They were doing the same thing, right? They were, sacrificing animals as part of this too. Drawing their sigils. A lot of times you'll see them draw the sigils on the ground in chalk, and then they'll put a candle on it, and they'll stand over top of it and focus on the candle, and, so it's just really interesting shit when you think about it. Can't stand the censorship. I know, I can't either. Like, there's so much I would like to say, and so much I like to show, but it's like, it's to the point now, like, they'll burn my fucking ass, honestly, for any of the stuff that, any of the stuff I share. So, I do have a document here. It's called the Illuminati Formula, used to create an undetectable, total mind-controlled slave. This is by Fritz Springmeier. And I'll just kind of read the 12 major sciences of monarch mind control. Number 1 is the selection and preparation of the victim. And these are the different steps that they go through whenever they're choosing somebody and to make them in preparation for this. A, genetics and their dissociative abilities. B, their availability. C, physical and mental requirements. D, the list of organizations carrying out the program. 4, foundational steps for programming. Spiritual requirements, mood child ceremonies, etc., etc. The traumatization and torture of the victim. The use of drugs, the use of hypnosis, the skill of lying and the art of deceit, the use of electricity and electronics. So many people that have had targeted individual experiences will know about electronic torture. See, that's the thing. If you're a TI or you have experienced being a TI, which I was a TI, you'll know that is a form of satanic ritual abuse. Right? They will torture your ass with electronics, gaslighting, gang stalking, you name it, right? And it's all to fragment you. That way they can change the way that you're thinking, change the way that you're behaving. And they do this to people that they consider to be, dissenters. So if you're like, and it goes from everything from doctors that are giving fucking natural medicines to, content creators to lawyers who defend the wrong person. Targeted individual can be anybody. It doesn't have to be someone famous. It's just anybody. And we know that the government absolutely is in charge of that, and they outsource that to the military-industrial complex. Then they have plausible deniability. So let's go check out a few of these things here with, got a few of these. All right. So the Monarch programming was a specific project carried out by secret elements of the U.S. government and intelligence groups, and there were, according to someone a few years ago, who had access to the computers, which contains all the names of active, monitored human slaves, 40,000 actively monitored monarch slaves. And you guys will see a lot of times the little butterfly with the monarch programming. So like people, and I'm not saying everybody who's ever used a butterfly is a monarch slave, but a lot of times that's a telltale sign whenever you are watching content and they use the butterflies and shit like that, or celebrities and, singers and, with the butterflies on their album covers or in their music videos. That's a big thing for the monarch shit. 40,000 actively monitored monarch slaves. However, this book uses the term generically to include all victims who've suffered this type of trauma-based mind control, in the same way that a brand name like Heister is used to describe all lifts. When we use the term, we use it in the broadest sense. This is the only way it can be used and technically correct, because as of this date, the authors have not seen who is the active monarch program list of slaves. The system, the term is used in several ways. It's frequently used to refer to a victim of total mind control because the victim consists of alters, which I explained the alters to you guys a little bit earlier, programming, implants, internal computers, and numerous dissociative states which function together as a system. The word, and think about this too, the whole multiplicity and dissociative identity disorder, multiple personalities. This is part of that. And we're going to show some Max Spears clips too as we go through this tonight. So I've got some really interesting shit, some really big throwbacks too. It's probably going to be a long one, but, surrounding all of this, and this dissociative identity disorder, when they create these alters, it gets so bad to the point to where we create alter egos, right? Parts of ourselves that we're fragmented from, where, one will be the ego of the sex slave, right? Where when they switch into that role, that's when they'll do all the sexual acts and, so on. One will be, the victim, where it's like the childlike person. Another, where they're totally afraid, and that's where they store all the fear at. And another one will be the normal person, where they function on their day-to-day life. You'll see a lot of this with these victims. The word also used to the body's functional psychological units, such as respiratory system. The word is also infrequently used to denote the established social, economic, political system controlling the world, also known insiders as a network. Other standing meaning may also occasionally be used for the word multiple personality, or DID. Multiple personalities or dissociative identity disorder is a situation where different dissociative parts of a single brain view themselves as separate persons. The DSM-IIIR definition of MPD is a guideline for determining MPD for this book. Now, think about this too, like musicians and shit, and just to give like an example, like fucking David Bowie or Marilyn Manson or Suicide Boys, or just a lot of these different groups, to where they'll create every album they come out with, they'll have a new persona, right? Like a new persona that they play. It's like, that's what this is. These are alter egos, right? Alternative personalities that they've created for themselves with a whole complete fucking backstory and everything. New World Order is the global design for a one world government, one world dictator, and its constituents. Insides call themselves the network and the neighborhood. SRA is used to represent all categories of ritual abuse which would be inspired by the desire to rob, kill, or destroy something worthwhile in a person, especially their freedom of thought. Many groups carrying out SRA do not mention Satan by that name. They may make pacts to Baphomet and call upon Rex Mundi, or Belair, or Lucifer, or the Father of Light, God, or Kali, or even Jesus, or Jesus Christ. There are demons which call themselves Jesus, who are not to be confused with Yeshua or Yehoshua ben Joseph, who is known as Jesus Christ of Nazareth. SRA is not a value judgment by the authors against some group. The victims themselves, on some level, know that he or she is being abused. Switching, this is when one part, fragment of the mind, takes over from another. Or in simple terms, this is where one alter personality or alter fragment takes the body from the alter which is holding the body. Switching can occur via the programmer's codes for calling up alters, or by external or internal stimuli that trigger an alter to come out. Switching will usually cause at least a flicker of the eyes, and for outside observers who know the different personalities, they will observe another personality take the body. Excuse me. Now, one of the things too, you'll see neuro-linguistic programming, right, where they use these trigger words, right? Whenever they're programming a person, a lot of times they'll use phrases and words that correlate to that trauma. That way when they hear that word, or that phrase, because it's a form of hypnosis, it'll actually invoke that emotional response with them. I can give you an example. One of the things, when I was going through this myself years ago, and I can say this now, because it's been some years, I haven't had any experiences since 2019, but I experienced electronic torture and gang stalking, and it was bad. It was very bad. But one of my trigger words back then was the word game, right? Because that was with their NLP. That was one of the words that they chose to use, and made everything seem as if it was a game. They would give me basically different storylines, and what they'll do with a lot of these people is create different storylines, whether it's telling you that you are in a game or a simulation, you're playing a game, right? And it's a live action role player or a LARP, or you're a super soldier, right? And they have to fucking traumatize you, or shit like that, to trigger your DNA, to activate your DNA. There's so many. You're being initiated into, a cult or a membership or a club or whatever, and part of that Initiation is you to go through some sort of gauntlet, and it goes on and on and on, the different things that they will do to people. Sometimes they'll tell people that they're fucking angels, fallen angels, earth angels, and that they're activating their DNA, and it's wild, that they're part of the elect for 144,000, and that's why they're being chosen. That's why they're, being, targeted and traumatized, and it's fucked up. Now, the mental and physical features, one of the primary reasons that the Monarch Mind Control Program was named Monarch Programming was because of the Monarch Butterfly. The Monarch Butterfly learns where it was born, its roots, and it passes this knowledge via genetics onto its offspring from generation to generation. This is one of the key animals that tipped scientists off, that knowledge can be passed genetically. The Monarch program is based upon Illuminati and Nazi goals to create a master race, in part through genetics. If knowledge can be passed genetically, which it is, then it is important that parents be found that can pass the correct knowledge onto those victims selected for the Monarch mind control. The primary important factor for the trauma-based mind control is the ability to disassociate. It was discovered that this ability is passed genetically from generation to generation. American Indian tribes who had traumatic ritual dances and who would wait motionless for hours when hunting. Children of fakirs in India who would sleep on a bed of nails or walk on hot coals. Children of yogis, those skilled in yoga, who would have a total control over their body in trance. Tibetan Buddhists, children of Vodun, Bizango, and other groups have a good ability to disassociate. The children of multi-generational abuse are also good at disassociation. The Illuminati families and European occultists went to India and Tibet to study occultism and Eastern philosophy. These Europeans learned yoga, tantric yoga, meditations, and trances, and other methods to disassociate. These skills are passed on to their children via genetics. A test run is when the children are about 18 months old to determine if they can disassociate enough to be selective for the programming or not. Mind-controlled slaves are created for different purposes. Hierarchy or non-hierarchy purposes. The Illuminati create mind-controlled slaves who are to function within the Illuminati hierarchy. These slaves will usually have their genealogies hidden and will be created to have excellent cover lives to ensure that they are not detected. They will be given multifunctional programming and will usually be used to help program other slaves. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Don't turn this against me, motherfuckers, either. If I start telling you this shit, start judging me. I know how people are. When I first started years ago, doing content and shit. First off, my father was adopted. My dad was adopted, and my actual bloodline, my genetics, I'm a descendant of Ulysses S. Grant. I don't know if you guys know who that is. But I came from, my bloodline is actually from a pretty prominent family. They gave up my father for adoption because my grandmother was the daughter of an Irish immigrant and a Native American. Full-blooded Native American and Irish immigrant. Came off the boat and all that shit to New York. And they gave my father up for adoption. I then adopted my oldest son, had a lot of adoption within my family, a lot of people. For some reason, I have attracted a lot of girlfriends, for whatever reason, that have also been adopted. But you'll see a lot of the adoption thing, and that's how they hide people's identity. My grandmother had the Rh negative factor. I also have the Rh negative factor. I was born on the 33rd parallel in Dallas, Texas, at Parkland Hospital, where JFK was king-killed, assassinated, which is a 33 ritual sacrifice. He's part of the 13 families as well, the Kennedys are. And in numerology, my life path is also a 33. So my north node in astrology is Gemini, which is the node of communication, which is speaking. I'm a Virgo, which is like the teacher, the hermit, the mystic of the tarot. I'm born on the cusp, the last day of summer, first day of fall. All three of my sons are also born on cusp. It's really weird shit, okay? Full moon, all of it. And so years ago, I met like one of the first handlers, is what I like to call them, when I started going through the targeted individual shit. And that's what they told me. They basically said, do you think you chose to do YouTube? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course I chose to do this, and this really goes to show, like, a lot of us, we think that we have total control of our lives, but we don't know, what thoughts, what anything, has been placed in our minds, and, who has led us where. And the person was like, no, you didn't. And he said, YouTube is actually, it's MK Ultra. It's a mind control project. When I was 19 years old, I got to meet the commander of the Navy, and I was in a program for a year. I got a top secret clearance for doing so. I had all these different things. None of them really added up to me. And they told me about my numerology. They told me about all that, and they said, this is what she said to me. She said that that 33 number is in numerology is a master number, and it's one of influence. It's a 33-6, which is a master teacher, and that essentially they push people to do certain things based on, or they know what the probability of them, what they will end up doing in life based on their astrology, their numerology, all of these things. And that the reason that they were targeting me and gang stalking me was because they knew that because of my particular astrology and all of that numerology, that I'm a magnetic speaker naturally. 10,000 times more magnetic than if I didn't have those things. And that a natural teacher as well, like, which I'm a nerd. I love this stuff. And, the mystic and the occult and all of that. And that when they know this about a person, that they will target them because they want to guide them and use their influence, their magnetism, basically against the masses, or to lead the masses in a particular direction instead of you doing it on your own. So when I say, like, and I'm not telling you that that's like I'm some shill or some puppet or anything like that, but I promise you that is what I was told years and years ago, and I didn't believe it. But when I really think about it, my awakening happened because of this, this very, very vivid dream where I heard the voice of God, and then I started looking into this shit and literally found voice of God technology, and it just kind of makes you wonder, like, do they, we know they have the ability, to create these massive experiences in a fucking person's life, and this was a life-altering experience, this voice of God thing. It's very, very vivid vision of, like, the end of the world and this giant striped planet, looked like Jupiter. And this voice came out of the sky, like, trust God, John. And, my whole life fell apart, and it was like as soon as, the mother of my children left me, was cheating on me, all these terrible things happened to me, and I went viral like a month later, and it was like I was, and I believed it was God, leading me to all of this, but, at the end of the day, it kind of makes you wonder, like, is it God or is it something else? We go through our whole lives believing that our ideas are our own, that our thoughts are our own. You probably thought you chose to believe whatever religion you believe, You probably thought that you chose to listen to the music you listen to. You probably thought that you chose to dress the way you dress or talk the way you talk or whatever before you had your awakening experience, did you not? So who's to say that there isn't, and I'm not saying just certain people, it almost feels like all of us in some way, shape, or form, some of us fall through the cracks, there's like this generalized programming of the masses that we would call NPCs, and that general programming kind of carries the population to a certain place to where they're all 9 to 5 and shit like that. But whenever they have someone, it's like almost like they fucking woke me up out of the Matrix, destroyed the life that I had, so I would, go in a new direction, and then opened up the doors and all these opportunities to make it possible. You know what I mean? It's like my conspiratorial side of my mind, kind of looks at that and thinks like, was I led to this? And then a lot of people know I started off, I was incredibly like a Christian fundamentalist, and as I learned more and more in the experiences I had, I definitely got involved with some bad people over the years and seen some wild shit. Traveled all over the United States and just met all different types of different cult members and just bad people. And it's a lot of times it's like I always felt like, I was being led to where I was going in life. But at the same time, it was almost like a test, It's like, do they know ultimately at the end of the day that some of us won't cross certain lines or that some of us can't be compromised, So they do everything they can to try to see if we will, Start to try to see if they can change us. Is waking up a part of the program for some? I think so. Deborah, I do. And you guys will remember years ago I even said this appeared to be a mass indoctrination into Luciferianism is what it actually is, when we really think about it, guys. Like the Great Awakening, that's exactly what it is. They took all of these Christians and they turned them into fucking, New Age, Gnostic, fucking, illuminated, initiated, enlightened, people of the mysteries. And it's happening on a massive scale. And it's like, when I look into my community, and when I have really, and I've met a lot of people of like minds, and like I said, I'm not trying to tell you I'm an Illuminati puppet or a fucking super soldier or anything like that. I honestly don't fucking know. But a lot of the folks I have met do have these kind of things where they have interesting numerology, where they have like master numbers 11, 22, 33. They have interesting astrological alignments. They have interesting genetics, you know, predisposed genetically, blood types, you know, so on and so forth. There's just a lot of fucking interesting things about a lot of the people that are awake and aware, you know. And if this hidden hand, just kind of think about that. You know, like, if they can literally, this can be something that's genetically passed, you know. You take a person's parent, adopt them out, put them somewhere, and then their offspring, you bring them up and fucking put them in top secret programs and shit like that, and they have a crazy IQ. Like, I just, you know what I mean? It's like, the logical part of my mind is like, but, you know, I feel like when I talk about these things with people, it's like people say, oh, you must think you're so special or you're so great. It's like, no, it was actually one of the most horrific experiences I have ever been through. And I wonder if a lot of the people that watch him right now can at least relate in some way, shape, form, or facet. Like, they have things about themselves. You know, that's why I would fucking love to hear your testimonies. I would love to hear your testimonies if you have went through satanic ritual abuse. You know, it's like, I swear, like, a lot of the people that they would use would be, you know, they know your weakness. You know, they psychologically profile all of us. You know? And that is on a massive scale. You are on a list somewhere. I can fucking guarantee that. You dissent, the way that you post, the things that you watch, all your data is being collected. They know that you're anti-government. They know that you're not falling for the system. Matter of fact, they have the technology to read your frequency. They can tell your frequency is extremely high as opposed to the rest of the population. They know your IQ, you know. They know your genetics. They know all of it. You know, so who's to say, like, they don't bring handlers into your life, like the people that you date, your girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, wives, you know, to try to influence your path. You know. It's a primary school game. Yeah, and that's what it feels like. Okay. The abuse will not be as physically visible as will be on the bodies of slaves who are not born to be part of the Illuminati elite. Members of Moriah, the Illuminati, Luciferian elite, will have undergone as much trauma as other slaves. However, the torture scars and the control are better concealed. These children will often receive lavish experiences as well as talks to convince them that they are part of the elite. By the way, body scars will show up better under black light. That is the same black light as used in clubs. The Illuminati and other organizations also have programmed individuals who are simply expendable. These are sex slaves, who are used up and killed very early in life. One-time use saboteurs, breeders, soldiers, drug couriers, and so forth. The bodies of these people will often show visible torture scars. The expendable are the children of parents who were blackmailed into turning their children over to the CIA. This is all hidden by the power of the National Security Act. These are children who have been sold by pedophile fathers or pornographic parents. The programmers and masters program them with the expectation that they will be thrown from the freedom train when they get to age 30. Freedom train is a code word for the monarch trauma-based mind control. To be thrown from the freedom train means to be killed. The CIA and the Illuminati are skilled at blackmailing parents to give up their children. They would watch the mail for porn. Pedophile and murderers who abuse their children are warned that they will go to prison for long lengths of time if they do not cooperate by selling their children into mind-controlled slavery. In return for the parents' cooperation, they provide rich financial rewards to the parents It's clearly a case of if you don't cooperate, you'll lose in life big time. If you do cooperate, you win big time. Ministers are often set up with betas, a sexual model, who then blackmail them. The ministers do not want to lose their status and profession via scandals, so they agree to turn their children over when young to the CIA to work with them. The Illuminati like to blackmail these ministers when they are finished with their seminary schooling and committed to the ministry at about 33 years of age. The idea of having nothing to fall back on after they have committed their entire life to one profession is too much for these weak-willed men, and they buckle under the threats. If they don't buckle, the resulting consequences will remove them from their ministry. The type of father is most preferred by the programmers to offer up their children for programming is the pedophile. If a father will abuse his own little baby girl, then the programmers know that the man has no conscience. The father's involvement in criminal activity and thereby his vulnerability can be continually increased. They want men who they believe will not develop any qualms later in life about what they have done. A man who waits until his daughter is a teenager to molest her is usually esteemed to have too much conscience for the programmers. A big distinction must be made between hierarchy monarch slaves and non-hierarchy monarch slaves. The reason there is such a big distinction is that they are not programmed the same way. Since this book is giving the recipe for how to create a monarch slave, we'll have to cover the distinction between slaves within the Illuminati and those who slaves the function outside the Illuminati hierarchy. It's important to stress that the label monarch is used in this book in a generic sense for the modern trauma-based total mind control that has taken place. Whether an Illuminati mind-controlled slave is technically in the monarch records or out of the actual monarch program data, files kept on computers merely a technicality. In my other writings, I explain about how the Illuminati created the CIA. I know that some of the directors were members of the Illuminati, and I strongly suspect that the other CIA directors were probably full-fledged members too. The two organizations need each other. If the CIA didn't have the international backing of the movers and shakers of the world, it would have been exposed and done away with. Likewise, the Illuminati, because it is so secret, needs organizations through which it can work. The CIA is a front for the Illuminati, and the CIA in turn sets up fronts. Some of those fronts are elaborate, well-staffed, well-equipped programming sites, such as many of the state mental hospitals, McGill Psychiatric Training Network, consisting of 8 Montreal hospitals, so on and so forth. And think about that. That's exactly what they said, that the Finders was a CIA training site, which is very fucking interesting, and they definitely, denied that. Now, we're going to go here to another clip for you guys. We are going to play a little clip, satanic ritual abuse testimony. It's about 6 minutes long.
Szépen is. Azaz is én szakszerűt az.
I think I'm gonna have to read the English one on this one. So here, let me pull this up. Anyways, first we'll go to actually Ted Gunderson talking about satanic ritual abuse tunnels first before we go to this, because I don't want to do the whole reading thing right this second. So when you guys hear about the tunnels, through all the QAnon shit, this is where it actually comes from. This is, but this is legitimate. This isn't the fake fucking aliens or, in the tunnels and fucking Donald Trump is, you know, trust the plan because Donald Trump is saving a bunch of children in the tunnels. That type of bullshit. You know, this is actually legit, so.
Lot. There is, right there, the building itself. This is the entrance, the concrete slab, a vacant lot there. This is a yard. And here's the avocado tree we're talking about. And here's the entrance right there. Now here is the tunnel. It came in here, extended here, and here's the chamber across here. We think, but didn't have time to explore this, the tunnel went up here. Now we definitely were able to come up with it here, right here, and it came into the bathroom over here. Okay. There's the entrance. 9 feet across here. I'll show you a diagram in a few minutes. There's the avocado tree. Those roots are live. Over here, we had a dead avocado root. Okay, next. There's a plate that was found in the play yard, buried about 6 inches under the sand, with the pentagram on it. That's right. And here's a diagram of the tunnel. This is the entrance of the tunnel. Now that's the floor, the footing for the classroom 4. Here's the plastic Disney bag. It was located right there, partially under the footing and partially out. And this AF means artificial fill. And this was the shape of the entrance. Okay. Here's your diagram. These are your drawings. Artificial fill. Here's the avocado root there. Here's the dead root over there. Distance 120 or 21 inches below and 14 inches below the footing. There's the avocado root there, live avocado root. And these are all diagrams by the archaeologists. Good documentation. They're the roots themselves. That shows you the size, 2 centimeters. Next. There's the plastic Disney bag. Turn it over. There's the plastic Disney bag. Disney, classroom 82, 83. Sandwich bag. It was a sandwich bag. This shows the arch of the tunnel. Now, the school was built in 1966. Which means the foundation was laid then. And here's your arch. And this is from classroom 4 here into classroom 3 over here. And it was 12 inches higher over to the left. Go ahead. There's yours truly looking up. This was in classroom 4, as I recall. And this is where the tunnel extended, right along here. Now, the reason the tunnel's been filled in, you have to understand that. And the reason the archaeologists could say that they were filled in is because the texture of the dirt that had been filled in was different than the natural texture. Okay. Just turn it off for a minute. In addition to the tunnels, I developed information that an abandoned satanic site was in Crestline, California. Crestline, California is in the mountains. The kids said, remember a few minutes ago, they were flown by jet, or flown, they didn't say jet, into the mountains. There's an airport 10 minutes from the McMartin Preschool. It's Hawthorne Airport. There's a landing strip in Crestline. I heard about this abandoned satanic site, and I went up to the site, took pictures. And this is what and by the way, before I go on with this, I called the prosecutor in the McMartin case. And I told her, hey, I think I know where the children were taken. If they weren't, it's certainly worth looking at. And I will be glad to make this information available to you. And if you want to have the children go up and look at this abandoned satanic site, we can. She said, we're not interested. They weren't interested in hardcore evidence, the tunnel. They weren't interested in this abandoned satanic site. Go ahead. This is what we found. 666, one of the satanic signs. That's a stone on the site. The house had been up here. The day after the McMartin case broke in the news, the house burned to the ground. And And it was here. The street's on the other side of the hill. You cannot see the site, this area down in here, from the street. You have to go in, would have to go in through the house and come down. And this, you can see it's quite elaborate. There's my associate, Judy Hansen, who works with me in L.A. And next. This is looking at the opposite direction of the picture we just took. And you can see there's San Bernardino down in there. And you can see that on the side of a mountain like that, nobody's going to find it unless you fly over with a helicopter. That's probably an altar, flattened stone. Also an altar, another altar that had been broken. This is, of course, you recognize the star. Now, this is a satanic symbol. Put the next one up. Hold the first one. There it is right there. Put the first one back on. Now overlay them. Turn it around that way. Okay, any question about that, folks? No. Well, let's read what that says. Amsday. Asmodee, a strong and powerful king, appears with 3 heads, the first like a bull, the second like a man, the third like a ram. He has a serpent's tail, the webbed feet of a goose, and he vomits fire. He rides the infernal dragon, carries lance and pennon, and is the chief of the power of Amaman. He must be invoked, be bareheaded, or otherwise he will deceive. He gives the ring of virtues, teaches arithmetic, geometry, and other handicrafts, answers all questions, makes men invisible, indicates the place of concealed treasures, and guards them if within the domain of the Amaman. Oh, what do we got here? Another satanic symbol. You think that wasn't a satanic site? Overlay it. Okay. Is that it? The other way around, isn't it? Yeah. Flip it around. Okay, there you go. Okay, now let's read what that sign means. That is the seal of Amsman scale. I guess no, that's the wrong. That's the one before. Belial, a mighty king, created next after Lucifer, appears in the form of a beautiful angel seated in a chariot of fire and speaking with a pleasant voice. He fell first amongst the superior angels who went before Michael and other heavenly angels. He distributes preferences of senatorships, causes favors of friends and foes, and gives excellent families. Familiar? He must have offering and sacrifices made to him. Next.
Wow. So there you have it. We'll show more of Gunderson and stuff like that as we go through, but Amaman, the first one, was a demon of concealing and invisibility, and you've seen it was like an underground, tunnel system where rituals were being practiced, satanic rituals and offerings and sacrifices were being practiced, so they were concealing it with the power of Amaman. And who were they actually making their offerings to? Baal, right? And we talked about this at the very beginning. Baal, right, or the children of Baal, right? And Baal, the Canaanite god, that offering children, so, it's like it all kind of comes full circle when you really think about it, it's like, I know it's fucking mind-blowing when you really think about it. It really is. To really see just how much, to see just how far, really, the shit has gotten before it was exposed and brought into the public. And what he was trying to show you with the Mickey Mouse shit and all of that, he was trying to show you it went back to, fucking decades. The shit was old as fuck, and it was built under a school. It was built under a school. I want you to wrap your mind around that. You know, so when you think about that, let me go back to one of the pictures of this. Think about that. That means when they built this on purpose, with the intent of taking children from this school and offering them up. So, absolutely fucking crazy here. Now we're gonna play one more video here. Just a second. We're going to read a few of these out of this document. Organizations practicing trauma-based mind control. This is what insiders refer to as a network. Air Force Intelligence, Army Intelligence, Atomic Energy Commission, Boeing, British Intelligence, MI6, MI5, Tavistock, Bureau of Narcotics, prisons, Catholic Church, including Jesuits, CIA, Langley, Charismatic Movement, Church of Satan, Scientology, I mean, the usual suspects, the OTO, blah, blah, blah. All right. Preparation of the children. By spiritual preparation, the moon children. Preparation for someone to be programmed also concerns the ability of a person to be demonized. Generational satanic families are sold out to Satan, and their children belong to Satan in a way that non-generational children do not. And this is pretty interesting right here. Pull the chat back up. Because of the generational curses, because of the genetic bent toward the occult, and because of the generational demonic forces, the Illuminati children are very good candidates for monarch programming. Part of the programming includes the layering in of demonic forces and the participation in blood rituals in order to draw in the most powerful of demons. An in-depth review about the important but controversial subject is in Chapter 10. The Moonchild rituals are the rituals to demonize a fetus. However, the demons that are invoked are not the small ones, but very powerful ones. In working with victims of this programming, it is clearly that high-level demons were placed within these people at very early ages. Many of them, it is believed, were demonized before they were born by rituals like Moonchild rituals. Blood sacrifices and human sacrifices are always required for this level of magic. Aleister Crowley was a Satanist who was a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. He was also a leader in a number of other Masonic rites, as well as an OTO leader, a chief in Stella Matutina, and an MI6 intelligence agent. His writings have been important within the 20th century Satanism, and within Black Magicians he wrote Moonchild, which was first published in 1917. The idea of a Moonchild is that via black magic a perfect soul can be captured. The belief in reincarnation, which is prevalent among the Illuminati and Satanic groups, lends itself to the belief that souls compete for a particular embryo. To produce a man who should not be bound up in the heredity and who should have the environment which they desired for him. This perfect soul in a proper person is called homunculus. The magical work upon which this is based is said to be derived from Bacon, Albertus Magnus, and Paracelsus, who are all reported in occult circles to have captured souls and placed them in brass statues. And we know, Solomon and his brass vessel as well. So the Hittites, the people of Asia Minor, and Syria have long sought the ability to create a Superman and a Superwoman. The Illuminati's inside occult history places the Hittites in their ancestry. Clear back in 1917, long before Superman appeared in comics and movies, Aleister Crowley was writing about a Superman. The magical idea is to capture a soul from the fourth dimension. In the book The Moonchild, the via used to produce a moonchild was called the butterfly net. The Monarch Project, then, which is named after the monarch butterfly, is also an allusion to the Moonchild Project, where butterflies are an allusion to souls, what Christians call demonic spirits. The actual rituals carried out to create a moonchild are described in detail in 3 of Crowley's writings. A vague description of the rituals can be seen by reading the book Moonchild. The ritual took place at a via nicknamed the Butterfly Net. The via was really an occult temple laid out in sacred geometrics. It had figures of satyrs, fauns, and nymphs. It had statues of Artemis, lots of silver objects, and crescents and 9-pointed stars were at the via. Because this objects all relate to the moon and magic, the woman who was pregnant was surrounded by objects related to the moon. The moon's influence was repeatedly invoked, and a small triangular silver altar to Artemis was used. There was a sacred spring where the woman was washed. The number 9 is sacred to the moon, was used along with the square, its square, 81. Prayers made to Artemis, and there was a reenactment of the capture of Diana by Pan. The woman was coaxed to identify herself with what is known as Grandmother Moon. In the book, she simply is called the Moon or Diana. By identifying her thoughts and actions with the deities one is wanting to invoke. The creation of the Moon Children within the Monarch Project involves high levels of magic by the circle of the Illuminati black magicians involved with a particular individual's programming. It should be noted that Grand Master and Grand Dame, others will understand demonology, but the section levels of altars above them, they are not informed. One of the biggest secrets kept from most of the slaves' altars is that their system was demonized while a fetus. First, this would give religious front altars the information they need to get them on the right track towards healing. And it could also adversely affect the programming lies of some of the front altars, who don't realize how premeditated all the trauma and torture is. The front altars of victims call themselves, remember the cover story, that the Moon Children were produced via torture in the cages as little children. The Illuminati have also planned that every one of the 10 Commandments of God will be violated in their favor with the child. They prefer the child to be born out of wedlock so that it is a bastard. This breaks God's commandments on adultery and also gives him more leverage to destroy the child's self-esteem. This entire plan involves generational curses which are spoken and unspoken. During Illuminati ceremonies, ceremonial pacts which concern having the child out of wedlock to mock God are made. While the Illuminati destroy any godly spiritual foundation, they are creating a solid, rock-hard foundation of love, adoration, or idolatry within the newborn upon which they will build the program. The second commandment is do not take the Lord's name in vain. In the Black Mass, the names of God are evoked to get spirits with blasphemous names such as Yahweh, Elohim. Most parts of the little child will never even hear the Lord's name. He will only hear the name of his master, who will someday be presented to him as God. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. The child is being bonded to his future programmers. Much later, great attention will be given to set up staged events to ensure that the victim being programmed hates God and utero traumatization. The formal Monarch Mind Control Project was developed from observations of high-level satanic families. These families had no qualms about the concept of traumatizing the fetus. Italian generational witchcraft is called the ways of the strega. These generational occult bloodlines, especially in Tuscany and Naples, are very much into generational ancestor spirits. These were the ones that Aleister Crowley went to learn how to create moon children. Remember, the Italian and German generational Illuminati families were studied by the Italian fascists and the German Nazis to develop a scientific understanding of mind control. The Illuminati families in Germany were secretly and scientifically studied in the 1920s to determine what exactly was happening and how to systematically improve the Illuminati's control over the people they were already programming. Discipline and training has been lavished for centuries upon the children of these elite bloodlines. The contribution of the 20th century was the systemic collection and scientific study of all the various methodologies into one cohesive programming package. The research was begun on a large scale in the 40s and has been systematically added to since then. Families who wanted disassociative children learned that disassociative babies could be born if the child in the womb is tortured. Thin needles are inserted through the mother into the fetus to prick the preborn child. Mothers who are pregnant with children to be programmed are severely traumatized during their pregnancy with a whole assortment of traumas, which simultaneously traumatizes the babies which they carry. For instance, the father may purposely abandon the pregnant mother in the middle of a forest, or blast the mother with loud, frightening music, and then follow this up with love. And, and premature birth is important because naturally occurring events around a premature birth ensure that the child is naturally traumatized. Now, I do want to say something too, pertaining to this. Not only is it, shit like this, that's also trauma bonding. You guys have heard of like a Stockholm syndrome and shit like that, right? Stockholm syndrome, where, you love your captor, and a lot of people that have like really fucking hectic traumatic relationships, they have the same type of trauma bonding too, where like they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend that fucking cheats on them all the time, or lies to them all the time, or is emotionally manipulative or abusive, and you stay with them. Like, that's why people like get stuck with narcissists and shit like this, right? It's trauma bonding. You're bonded to them through trauma, right? They're traumatizing you, right? And then, after they fuck you over or traumatize you or burn your ass, and then they reinforce it with love, right? Like, here, now let me love on you after I've, hurt you. That's one of these tactics that are used against, victims of the trauma-based mind control as well. Yeah, it's fucking crazy. It's really shitty, actually. And not only just the premature birth thing, but one of the things that they do is they'll have C-sections based on the numerology. Like, say they want, not all of them, but say that, me and somebody was going to have a child, and we wanted this child to grow up and be a celebrity or have high influence into the world. So we wanted it to be very influential, and we wanted it to be charismatic, and we wanted it to be a great speaker, and all of this, right? So what we would do is we would add up the possible birth dates, right, within a couple weeks before its birthday, and we would add it up until we got the life path number and the date. That way it's going to give it like an 11 number, a 22, or a 33, a master number, right? And then what we would do is we would have a C-section on that date. That way we could create, a life path 11 child, right? Or a life path 22 child, a builder, a life path 33 child, and this is one of the tactics they use. And if you look at a lot of the elites, almost 99% of the time, their children are master number life paths. Now, you can say what you want, but I hate to tell you, they do that shit on purpose, because they're trying to groom them to have that magnetism. They're trying to groom them to be able to serve a certain purpose, or to have an easier life, to have more influence and more power and shit like that. Also, they play by the numbers too. Like, say they're trying to produce wealth in the family. They will make sure the child comes out on the 28th, because 28 correlates to the number of wealth, right? So they will either give the kid a name. Your name is a mantra. So they never name you after somebody in the family that had a rough life, right? Never do that. They never name you after somebody in the Bible, who was tortured, you'd never name your fucking kid Job. You know what I mean? Or something like that. You always want to name it after somebody that was really successful. Right, Deborah. She says, Deborah Trudeau says, we experience the world from the moment of conception. Any trauma to the mother is trauma to the child. I absolutely agree with that. But like I was saying though, yeah, thank you for subscribing, Danette Birch. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. But like I was saying though, so they birth you on particular numbers. Master numbers 11, 22, 33, depending on, you know, it's harder to get a 33, but, you know, they get 11s a lot, right? So if you're a 22, you have the gifts of the 11 and the 22. If you're a 33, you have the gift of the 11, the 22, and the 33. And 33 is, you know, that it's highly influential. It gives you the ability to carve out your own path. The guy who created basketball, Naismith, he was a 33. Jesus, 33. Like, so it's, you know, that's why they do this. 28, the number of wealth. Vladimir Putin, born on the 28th, got married on the 28th. So on and so forth. He's like the richest fucking guy in the world. So they will do these things, right? They'll have children born on the 28th, or they'll take their name, which is their mantra. They never name them after somebody who's had a fucked up, shitty life. They never name them after a biblical character that had a fucked up life. They always name it after somebody who was incredibly rich, incredibly powerful, incredibly successful, because that's your name, your mantra, right? Just for example, you know, and my parents weren't intentional. I just got lucky as fuck. John means beloved of God. My middle name is Wayne. So that means the way. Keen means to be sharp with one's word and one's life, right? So that's my mantra, right? So those things are the characteristics of me. Once again, even in my name has to do with the speaking and the words, right? You call that a coincidence? I think not, right? I think not. No matter if it's numerology, astrology, all of it. It's like all kinds of seem to point in one direction. So it's like somebody was being incredibly intentional when I was created. God, my parents, the people that adopted, you know, like who? And I feel like this is with a lot of us. There are particular names too that you never name girls, like Rachel is one of the names you never name a girl. I'm trying to think of some of the names that you're never supposed to name somebody. I would never name a guy Job. And like I said too, with the letters of the alphabet too, so A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, so on and so forth, right? You can also take that name and add it up to, you know, particular numbers, like 28. Elites always get married on the 28th. If you get married on the 28th, you will have a prosperous marriage, because you will have good finances. Also, you pay attention to, they will pair you according to when they have, I was born in the year of the pig, right? So there are certain animals of the zodiac that are enemies with me, like the snake, right? I should never marry a snake person. And I actually was with the snake, she was a Jesuit. And she was a snake in general too, but she was, that was her zodiac sign. And dude, we were like fucking oil and water, and I never knew why until I looked that up, based on that, our numbers, our zodiac signs, all that, like we're in the year of the dragon now, right? So it's like this, if you are an enemy of the dragon, this would be like the year to like fucking lay low, not make any big financial moves, so on and so forth. Love this stuff. Yeah, hey, dude, it's so interesting to me. It's so interesting to me. Like to really get into, how this shit works. And it's like, I know, I do want to address this too. Why I'm here, why I have you. I went on the missing link the other day, and when I went on the missing link, First off, I want to say I do love Jesse Howe. He's a good guy. I didn't plan on going on the Missing Link the other day, but Jesse invited me on there like fucking 20 minutes before it started for an open panel, and I came on there, and then you guys can watch that. That was crazy. That was what you would call, that was like a setup right there. That was agents trying to, attack and undermine the influence, right? Like we were talking about with the targeted individual stuff. That's like, that's the type of shit that these people are used for. Not all people that are controlled by these mechanisms are used for the same things. Everybody has unique purposes. Like I said, my purpose is for speaking and teaching, so on and so forth. Other people's is for healing and shit like that. Some people are for sex, and then there are people that are actually, meant to troll and fucking cause chaos and conflict and they just create ignorance wherever they go, and that was a coordinated attack. That's not the first time that's happened to me either. See, you guys may remember this a few years ago. I went on Troubled Minds Radio, and Troubled Minds Radio is back when I had Bailey as my co-host, and my criminal record was released. I was talking about Trump and the jabs and the mark of the beast and that entire agenda, and I was on fire during this interview. Absolutely just dropping bombs like fucking Hiroshima on motherfuckers. And then boom. All of a sudden, which if you guys are patrons or supporters, you can go check that out. That is one of the uncensored videos that has been taken down. That's one of those videos that got me strikes and shit. So you can't find that anywhere but through our memberships and subscriptions. But yeah, somebody did a background check on me that I was connected to. Let me know they did a background check on me. And then all of a sudden, I go on a radio show, which was a big, opportunity to really, and they released my criminal record to try to discredit me, to make me look like a criminal. And for those of you that don't know, I went to the penitentiary, back in 2006. When I was 24, 25 years old, when I was a kid, before I had children and shit. And they'll use anything they can, That's why I've never hid my past, when it comes to doing this. Because I know when you do, that's what they'll use against you. So it's like, yep, I served prison time for dope, right? For drugs, So anybody ever wants to try to use that against me, they can't use that, Yep, the mother of my children cheated on me and, fucking all that. You can't use that against me. You know what I mean? Like, anything you fucking want to try to use against me, I'm not going to allow it. I'm going to go ahead and tell you first, and tell you about all my embarrassing, fucked up shit. That way I have nothing to hide. And sadly, but true, people are incredibly judgmental. Whenever you are in the public spotlight, you fucking speak or teach or whatever. You don't even have to teach. You can just fucking be on, content creator, period. But you do the spiritual shit. Everybody wants a reason to disqualify you from being able to speak about spiritual things. Because we have this idea of these fake fucking, pastors, right? They all pretend like they're so holy moly and shit, and like they're having affairs on their wives and you know, fucking beating their kids and God knows why, right? But they paint you this picture that they're so devout and so loving to God and so holy and they never sin, and you know, it's like, then when they finally get caught up, you know, cheating on their wife or whatever, or being gay or whatever, right? It's like, because they've lied about who they truly are, it ruins their ass. You know, it ruins them. So it's like, if we're not, and that right there too is a common misconception. People think in order to be a spiritual teacher or speaker, you have to give off this idea of perfection. You know, and that's why I've always played like the music I played on the channel, and you know, I like what I like. I talk about what I talk about. That way people see it's like I'm just a regular ass dude, and I'm not pretending to be some airy-fairy fucking new age, you know, floating on a cloud bullshit. You know, I'm not on that. You know, I don't even really like that type of shit. I think it's fake and it's disingenuous as fuck. I've always cussed, you know. I love women. I like to have fun. Like, I like shitty music. Like, I like all that stuff because I'm a man. I'm a person, you know, and I feel like, you know, we should always make sure that we're being true to ourselves, no matter where we're at in life and what we're doing in life, because people are gonna find a reason to disqualify you from being able to speak your truth regardless, guys, regardless. There's always gonna be somebody that disagrees with you. I said this the other day. When you're trying to come up and you're trying to make an impact and you're pursuing your calling and, you know, your passion in life, there are people who love you because nobody else loves you. You know, they love the underdog. They're like, man, and I used to have a lot of those people. They just loved me because I wasn't known. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody watched me, listened to me, nothing. So they're like, you know, they rooted for me all the time because everybody didn't like me, right? Nobody knew who I was. And then you have the people that once, you know, you're known, that's when they like you. They like you when everybody else likes you. You know, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've listened to you for 10 years, you know. It's like, oh, that's funny. I've fucking never heard of you. You know, I know a lot of my people, you know, but I've never seen you in a chat, you know. But when they, you know, when you got attention, then all of a sudden you become credible to them. And a lot of times when you do have success at whatever you're trying to do, then the people who love you when you're an underdog, then they hate you. They see you as a sellout because you finally made it and found success or got traction. It's fucking wild. So any way you look at it, right? Any way you look at it, you're never going to please everyone. And people are always going to, whenever you change, no matter what it is in life, guys, whether it's, you know, evolving your spiritual beliefs, learning more, evolving your political beliefs, or just creating an overall new awareness about and perception of the world, people are always going to give you a fucking hard time because you're changing, you're growing, you're evolving. People want you to stay the same, you know? They'll be like, man, you changed. Like, fuck yeah, I've changed. You know, I grow. I evolve. I learn. I adapt. I'm a human fucking being. Would you expect me to be the same, you know, shithead I was in high school? No, that's fucking crazy. If that was the case, I would be ashamed of myself. I would have failed in life. And most people peak in high school, so I guess that's why they feel like that. But, you know, and it's like whenever you're trying to do something, whether you're baking fucking cakes or you're making YouTube videos, people will be like, man, you know, you're not the same cake baker you were 5 years ago. You're not the same, you don't make the same content you did 5 years ago. It's like, that's right. You know, or like musicians and shit. It's like, oh, well, you expect their music to always be that same formula, same sound of their first album. You know, why do we do that? Why do we do that? And I understand, like, they're being a part of somebody, of what they do that you value. Right. Walk in truth, and those that really love you will continue to love you. That is just absolutely the truth right there. But I mean, you know, no matter what we're going to do, you know, like in life, we should always be growing while we do it. You know, it's like, I understand people like finding a value of when you were starting something, or, you know, but to expect a person to never evolve, to never change, to never grow, to never become more, you know, those who don't learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. You know, and if you're not growing, you're not evolving, you're regressing, you're stagnating, you're standing still. You know? You're standing still. And what really sucks about the truth and spiritual movement, guys, is we know that once upon a time, these people left religion because they were sick of the hypocrisy. They were sick of the judgment. They were sick of the fact they couldn't question. You know? And nobody had answers for them. Or they were disqualified from leadership or whatever. They were sick of all that shit. And then we come to spirituality and we awaken and have awareness, and we bring that same bullshit with us here. You know, same dogmas, just a new flavor. You know. Oh, John's a Satanist now. He's a Luciferian now because there's a pentagram in the background. Oh, tarot's evil. Tarot's evil. I can't watch you anymore, John. I'm a follower of Jesus. I can't watch anybody that does tarot. You know, it's like people... when we limit ourselves and we place all these fucking rules and expectations and obligations, and then try to expect everybody to be beholden to our expectations, we limit what the fuck we can experience in life so much. And then we wonder why we have very limited knowledge, very limited experience. You know, if you truly want to live and experience life, I'm sorry, you can't build a cage around everybody else and tell them to follow your way of thinking and your rules, and think that your way is right and try and impose it on every fucking body else. I can tell you what, nobody's going to want to be around you. Nobody's going to want to talk to you. Nobody's going to listen to you. Nobody's going to deal with you. Well, I'm right. I'm right. You know? It's like we've created a bunch of spiritual narcissists, and that's what these people are. These controllers that are doing the ritual abuse, that are doing the sacrifices, that are doing the mind control, they're spiritual narcissists. They're people that wanted the knowledge for the wrong fucking reasons. And you say, well, they occult and they hide and it's all hidden from us, and why can't we know? And they're elite and da 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 da. Yes, do you know why? Do you know why the knowledge is hidden? Because they want people, God wants people that are worthy of the knowledge to have it. People that are willing to go through the process, experience the hardship and the growth necessary to attain the wisdom to have it. When you are an arrogant fuck and you think you know everything but you listen to no one, you'll never have it. You'll never have it. If you are offended by somebody who knows more than you, you will never have it. If you are envious of others because they work harder and have obtained more knowledge than you, you will never have it. This is the whole casting our pearls before swine. Think about the swine, by the way, the pig. That's what Jesus put the demons into before they ran off the fucking cliff. You know? So what's that tell you? It's casting our pearls before people full of fucking demons. Casting our pearls before people controlled by demons that are going downhill, that are running off the edge of a cliff, that are being led to the slaughter already. They're blind. They're blind. And you know, I used to take it personally. When I didn't have at least 100 people in my chat, I thought, what the fuck is wrong with me? Is it, you know? But it's like as my content got deeper and we learned more, it's like, holy shit. You know, it hit me like all of a sudden. It's like the deeper we go and the more we learn, the less there will be. The less there will be. This is like the elite class, you know? And I'm not like bragging on myself or anything like that, but I've dedicated my entire fucking life to this shit. And all of the people that watch me, same thing. You know, like the true core group of the people of our community, they're just like me. That's why they were attracted to me. They eat, breathe, and live this shit. They're not afraid to open any book. They're not afraid to read anything, learn anything. They listen to everyone and everything. And they're just trying to soak it up, soak it all in. They value knowledge above all. Learning above all. And that is a frequency, a vibration on its own. You know. You do have those, and there will always be those that are attracted to our groups, our communities, because they want the knowledge we have. They do. They want to learn how to do this stuff. They want to learn how to control people. They want to learn witchcraft. They want to learn, you know, how to influence with numbers and symbols and sigils and so on and so forth, and create servitors to do their bidding. And, you know, they might learn a lot of it by watching me. But they want to learn it so they can use it to control and oppress others. And they don't want to do what it takes to actually learn it. They want it given to them. And they want it given to them in the way that they want it. You know. Well, we do, you know, and we do need to stick together. And the sad thing is like, I think we are called together. Yeah, Kimberly, we are called together. We are called together. You know, and I'll be honest with you, there are so many days I don't feel supported. I don't feel, I don't feel the love. You know? not by you guys in particular, but it's always easier to see, you know, that one negative comment or that, you know, or it's always easier to focus on what you don't have or what people aren't doing. You know, because that's how we're engineered, you know, our society. Instead of focusing on what we do have and being grateful, like being grateful for the few people I do have that are genuine. The few people I do have that truly are on the level and they fucking seek, man, and they seek genuinely with their whole heart and soul. Like they go at it. They show up day in, day out. They're here right with me. Reading the same books, all into it. You know? You know, and God kind of showed me, like, yeah, you know, like, it's about being grateful for what you have before you can have more. You know? And understanding it's not about even more. It's quality over quantity. You know, what you think a secret society is, you know, like the true elite memberships are like Freemasons? No. No. They are a hidden hand. There's a small few. You know, small few. And I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with that. Because to me, I would rather be part of that small few and be an elite company, you know, with like minds. There's plenty of people selling magic like candy to the masses. They use what they don't actually comprehend. Right. Absolutely. I know it. I do know it. What blows me the fuck away is I'm not gonna mention names. I feel like that would not be cool. I don't want to dog any of my peers. But put it this way, there are people who have huge fucking channels, huge communities that claim to be Illuminati this, Illuminati that. Like they know all about the Illuminati. And when I watch it, it's like I can't even fucking stomach it because they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. It's all the exoteric understanding, you know? They have no esoteric understanding of any of it. And it's like, where the fuck do these people get off even trying to tell people, you know? And it's like, and they're like so, you know, in their audience, the reason it's so big is because they're so dumb. You know, it doesn't take a very smart person to be, you know, thinking that everything's an all-seeing eye and they covered their eyeball and that stupid shit. It's the dolphins and da-da-da-da. It's like, come the fuck on, bro. Come the fuck on, people. This is why conspiracies are not taken serious. Because we have idiots like that. You know?
And there's another satanic sign. I couldn't make that one out, so I couldn't match it with anything, obviously. Here's some ovens.
Wow, that just started out of nowhere. That was weird. That was weird.
That was,
okay, that is so weird. I don't know why this keeps starting back up.
A large... large circle with a number of signs.
What the fuck?
In it. writing. We couldn't get up high.
Wow, here, I'm going to close this out. But that's what I mean, man. We have a lot of people, you know, out there, you know, claiming to have this, you know, hidden knowledge, these mysteries, and doing these decodes and shit like that, and they don't, you know, they haven't actually studied none of it. You know, they don't actually understand any of it. You know, it's like fucking zombies, you know, the blind leading the blind, you know. And the masses, you know, the masses are attracted to this shit because that's the stuff that the algorithms will push. They don't push the real shit. They push the dumb shit. You know, they want you misled. That was freaky, I know. I don't know why that kept happening. I swear I'm not touching nothing. It just kept starting back up. No, it's not like people believe. Ted's got shit to say. He must have. Well, Ted, you know, he's legit, man. You know, he's legit. He's legit. I think I am going to switch over to the private section now, because I don't really have much I can share on the public platform at this point. Let me play a clip first before I do, though. Let me play a clip first. I do have another clip I want to share with you before I do. Where is it at? Fucking crazy. Some of this shit's so wild. Where is it at? Right here. Alright, here you go.
Which is to fragment the brain, thereby creating alter personalities or split personalities. What you're going to hear next is a brief audio clip of that video.
When we were being used for, they were testing out how far they could push the trauma. Because when certain sex rituals are done to a child under 5 years old, when a child is raped, and when a male child is raped, what happens is it releases the coiled serpent, or the kundalini, which is at the base of the spine, and it is opened up before it should be. Everybody has the kundalini raise at some point. Maybe not everybody, but right. So it means coiled serpent, and it sits at the base of the spine. And when the serpent uncoils, it goes up the spinal column like this, and comes to the brainstem there, and you come to an enlightened understanding. So you become an enlightened one, or the Illuminati, the illuminated one. When a male child is raped before the age of 5, it goes through something called the vasovagal shock. Now, when it's penetrated, the coiled snake uncoils very, very quickly, all the way up the spine, to the top of the spine, and explodes here in the brainstem, which then shatters the consciousness into many, many pieces, like smashing a mirror. Then,
so all this ritual all this kind of abuse that's been happening with many politicians, allegedly, a lot of stuff coming forward now about British political parties, British media, British thing and all that. There's a huge amount of stuff coming out now. Is that all part of that?
You cannot be a high-level person in the Illuminati unless you have been illuminated by the Key of Solomon. Now, they call this rape. They call rape like that to a young boy the Key of Solomon. And when that happens, when it bursts up here, it shatters, and you're able to program these different altars. But not only that, when it shatters there, you have a photographic memory. Somehow it raises the IQ. It does a number of different things. Everybody who is in a position of power now has had the Key of Solomon used on them, so they have been raped in that way.
Which means that the whole structure of power in Britain,
yes,
the UK, probably Ireland, because of the recent terrible things about 900 children, 800 children ritually massacred in Ireland, that means the whole power elite has been...
Yes. Yes, and they won't have you in the Power Elite unless it's been done to you.
Side by
They won't have you in the Power Elite unless it's been done to you. Right? And that's that Kundalini awakening, the vagus nerve. Right? We've talked about this, the vagus nerve, which is in your asshole. Right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Right? That's what all that, Sin City and shit, man. It's to trigger a Kundalini awakening through the back door. So we've talked about this on the channel. I love Max Spears too. He's amazing. He is amazing. Yeah, he's dead now. And he was somebody who definitely, he was part of all of it. The Illuminati, and he spoke out against it, and they wrecked him. They wrecked him like nobody's business. They really did. They fucked that poor guy up and killed him. So. I do want to ask everybody that's watching, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up over on Twitter Spaces. So everybody on Twitter, please follow me, join me over on Patreon, or text 513-393-2396 for the links after donating and supporting for the month of March. I'll see you guys later. Alright, that's your Twitter Spaces there. And I'm going to go over to Discord now, and I'm going to start the private link. So this is how it goes. This will be for all those who donate and support in the month of March. This is to help me reach my monthly goal, guys. So it's been very, very challenging for me to attain the goals to do my multi-streaming, for my software, my equipment, and I just cannot afford it. I'm demonetized on everything. I don't get donations anymore or any support. So I have to do this. So please don't be mad at me because I can't do everything for free anymore. I'm trying very hard. And I try to make really quality content and go in depth and everything for you guys. Don't donate to the Venmo anymore. We don't have the Venmo anymore. But I am asking everybody to please donate and support. I'm not monetized. I'm demonetized on everything. I have no sponsors. None of that. I'm not pushing any products. This is the only channel like this, of this kind. And this is the only place where you will get the real deal shit. Like the real true information, without an agenda, without any of it, and hours of it, and everything free. I've got an entire playlist of all the videos that have been strikes and taken down, and all of it. We've lost our old Discord. We've lost our our iTunes had over 100,000 downloads. We've been fucked over so much. By the system. It's not funny, so I need y'all's support to be able to do what I do and for us to be able to continue to have a community. I'm not going to get rich off this, trust me on that. So please, donate and support. PayPal.me, The Best Damn Podcast, Cash App, Best Damn Podcast, or you can go to Facebook, my personal Facebook, John Keane. It's facebook.com, John Keane Best Damn Podcast. If we're not friends, add me as a friend and send me a personal message. And you can donate through Messenger Pay, or you can join us over on Patreon, and it's patreon.com, Best Damn Podcast Official. Kimberly has put all the links in the chat. They're also in the description, and I'll pin them at the top of the comment section as well. If you have donated and supported in the month of March, then you just text 513-393-2396. That's 513-393-2396. Or email therealbestdampodcast@gmail.com, and I will send you the links. Not only do we have, private content that's uncensored, where I'm telling you the videos are fucking wild. I couldn't even play none of them on the public part. They're pretty fucked up. And so much shit like this. I'm going to be doing a lot more of this. We also have playlists like, the Forbidden Occult playlist, the Necronomicon playlist. I mean, there's multiple playlists. The Mysteries of the Gods playlist, and then on top of all the stuff that's, had strikes and, hundreds and hundreds of hours of content, it's a lot. And I put a lot of work, and I got a huge library, and it's of my very best work, the stuff that I can't show on here and that you can't find nowhere anymore. So, please donate and support me. Every little bit helps, and I am very, very grateful to each and every one of you that do give to me and support to me. Once you have donated here in March, you got access all month long. Every time we do a private video, you can go join me tonight. I'll open up the Discord as well. So if you guys want to have some chats on the Discord, we can do that. If you join on Patreon, I believe, and if you have donated in March, mention at Best Damn Podcast Official on our Discord, and I changed it, so in the description, just click on that link. That's the right Discord link. Just mention at me and I'll upgrade your role. That way you're able to speak and shit like that, and just go into the Best Damn Fam. It's an audio streaming room, and it gives you the opportunity to where we can actually talk during the show. Patrons will automatically have the upgraded role. Patrons automatically have access to all the content, and they get notified for all of it. But not everybody wants to do the monthly pledge thing, so that's why I offer it for those who donate too. And like I said, you'll get access all March long. So far, we've gotten no support in the month of March, so be the first, right? Be the first. We've got a few $100s to get to try to just cover the overhead cost, So I want to, and once I get, enough to actually cover the cost, I will do everything free from that point on. We didn't hit the goal last month, so I want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys for watching. Please hit the thumbs up, like, share. This part 1 here will be unlisted. Sorry, this will be going to a private playlist, but I wanted to do it live to give, at least free for the live part. That's why it's so important to watch live now, guys. I'm unlisting a lot of the live shows and making it patron only, membership only, to try to get people, encourage people to support me. Also, I do read tarot. I do daily reads on Facebook and YouTube, and they do really well, actually. And so if you would like to book a personal tarot reading, you can also text 513-393-2396 or email therealbestdampodcast@gmail.com. And, yeah, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys for watching. I love all of you so much. And hopefully I will see you guys over on Patreon. And I will see you on the private link as well. So, y'all have a good evening. And I will see you next time. Peace. Okay, maybe.